Hi, everyone, and thanks for being here for this live stream from me, Awesome Charlie Hart, and various neurodivergent members of the Speakers Collective. So, this is a new thing that we're doing. We recently formed a neurodiversity subgroup within the Speakers Collective, and we thought it would be cool to get some neurodivergent members to share their experiences during Neurodiversity Celebration Week. So we'll each introduce ourselves, and then I'll get each member to do like a lightning 3 to 5 minute talk, and then we'll have a bit of a interaction and a bit of a chat. Please do ask us questions if you're here on social media. Please ask us questions, and I can see them coming through, and we'll answer them afterwards. And I hope you enjoy. So my name's Charlie Hart. I've been a member of the Speakers Collective for about 14 months now. I'm autistic, I'm ADHD, I have complex PTSD. So I am multiply neurodivergent. And I've been a neurodiversity advocate for about 6.5, 7 years now. So I've always been involved in Neurodiversity Celebration Week, either on my own socials or chairing an event. And it's great to be here. Lucy, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Lucy Hobbs. I'm the founder of the Futures ND. I've also been around for about 7 years, since the beginning of Neurodiversity Celebration Week. And I worked in like advertising, the creative industry, for about sort of 20 odd years before finding out I was neurodivergent, both autistic and ADHD. So I started the Futures ND because I wanted to raise collective voices to be able to raise awareness within those industries and to sort of normalize neurodiversity, really.
And Sam, do you want to
Hi.
introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name's Sam Geldard. I'm quite a new member of the Speakers Collective. I'm an integrative therapist and I was diagnosed about 5 years ago. My diagnosis came about following my completion of my counselling training and having a horrific 2 years of really struggling and not understanding why. My diagnosis was the only test that I've ever passed first time.
Well done. Valeria, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. So, my name is Valeria, and I'm Italian, and I moved to the UK back in 2017 as a European expat. And as probably most of the members of these panels, I'm ADHD as well, both autistic and ADHD, and I've been diagnosed back in 2022. I currently work in London as a project manager, and I live there since 8 years now. And so I started, I joined the Speakers Collective last year through knowing Charlie because she was already a member. And I started also my neurodiversity advocacy last year. So I'm very fresh to this world. And I advocate mostly for the late diagnosed adults who are struggling to with their career and with the workplace challenges. So most of my posts on LinkedIn are related to this. And at the moment, the place where I'm more active is LinkedIn, and I had so far. This is probably my third opportunity to speak that I had since last year. So I'm pretty new.
Thank you. Rena, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Rena, also known as Rena Zen _world. I'm a neurodiversity and human disability advocate, coach and mentor, speaker, and fashion textile designer. I'm a multi-passionate change maker, and I use my experience as someone who's dyslexic and hard of hearing to help others come out with their own uniqueness and live a life really authentically as they can, using creative modalities and self-expression.
And VJ, finally, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is VJ. I'm a neurodiverse character artist, workshop facilitator, and new to public speaking, part of the Speakers Collective also. And my autism journey has only been recent. I've been late diagnosed, only this December that when I found out that I'm ADHD. I have many other hidden disabilities, so I advocate for hidden disabilities, CPTSD, suicide prevention, and intersectionality.
Fabulous. So I'm just highlighting a comment from John Salmon, who is joining us behind the scenes and streaming this to the Speakers Collective socials. So John says he's really looking forward to listening to this conversation. So firstly, I'm going to ask each person to give a short talk and tell us about their experiences with neurodiversity and neurodivergence and a Neurodiversity Celebration Week, whatever you like, really. Tell us about your work, anything you like. So I'm going to firstly come to Lucy Hobbs, who is my best friend and the founder of the Future ND. So Lucy, over to you.
Thanks, Charlie, and thanks for inviting me today. This is my only talk, actually, this Neurodiversity Celebration Week.
Hold on. I'm going to try and spotlight you. I accidentally spotlighted myself. Sorry. Go ahead.
I'll do it for you, Charlie. But yeah, this is my actually only talk this week. I did do one last week. My normal day-to-day thing, I mean, I kind of got into the neurodiversity space when I founded the Future ND. I started out by organising events after speaking about my ADHD conference, because I used to hide it before then. I mean, at one point I didn't know I had ADHD and was autistic, and I struggled really a lot in the workplace, in advertising, which is kind of quite an unforgiving industry. I remember getting my first job at one of my first roles at HHCL to work with Steve Henry on the launch of Robinson's Fruit Shoot, which was a massive deal. But when I got there, they were pioneering hot desking, which was just so overwhelming for me, and I just couldn't understand why I couldn't cope with it like everybody else who thought it was cool. I just wanted to sit next to the wall every day in the same seat, and it was just too much. So, I had those sort of experiences. Then I found out I had ADHD in 2007, and I still wouldn't kind of speak about it because I was a freelancer and I was scared of not getting hired. And then found out later in 2021 I was also autistic. So I started out organising events because I just felt like more people had to speak up after speaking about my experience, and it was kind of out in the open. So I started by doing events, and then after that, I got asked into agencies to talk about neurodiversity. I sort of created workshops, sort of more talks and stuff like that. And I also have kind of gone full circle now, and I work on creative projects, neurodiversity focused creative projects for neurodivergent founders, and or on projects that are about neurodiversity. But today I really wanted to talk a little bit about Neurodiversity Celebration Week and its sort of roots and where it came from, because I think it's kind of been a little bit missed, because it was actually founded by a 16-year-old student called Sienna Castello. Can't pronounce her name.
Castellon, I think.
Castellon.
I think so.
I always have problems with different pronunciations. I think that's a phonics thing.
Yes.
But she actually invented it because of her bad experience at school of being autistic, dyslexic, dyspraxic, and ADHD, and she was kind of bullied at school. And her mission was to flip the narrative, shifting the focus from deficits and weaknesses to celebrating strengths, and to combat bullying, misunderstanding, and the marginalisation that many neurodivergent people face at school. And this, so it was born out of a desire to help young people to feel celebrated. And this is also quite a personal reflection for me as well, because my daughter, who has been failed by the education system, is now homeschooled, and I've been fighting for her educational healthcare plan for over a year now, and I just think it's just this was founded 7 years ago, and and it's getting worse. The schools are clamping, instead of making the schools more inclusive, they're clamping down with harsher rules. So I just think it's really important to highlight where Neurodiversity Celebration Week came from, and it's originally founded for schools, and it wasn't meant to be for originally for corporate initiatives or workplace inclusion, but it's great that that's part of it now. But it all starts in school. That's where it starts. That's where the shame starts. That's where children are diagnosed with these disorders. They're made to feel bad about themselves. And Sienna wanted to for these children to celebrate their differences, you know, and for the teachers to celebrate their differences and to make it much more positive. So I just really wanted to mention that, really. And
yeah,
that's I'll probably have my 3 minutes now, Charlie.
that's okay. I'm not keeping track if anyone overruns. It's fine.
This. I went to a talk this morning and no one mentioned what it was kind of like first founded for.
Yeah.
Because
so I'm glad you raised this, because I've been also involved in Neurodiversity Celebration Week around the same time, and I knew Sienna from Twitter. She and I used to talk a lot. So when I supported her in setting this up, but when she was approaching 18, she wanted to make it available to workplaces and employers as well, with a view to her own future, her own adulthood. But now she's completely stepped away from the neurodiversity scene, and we all miss her.
I forgot to mention, it was meant to be in my talk that in 2000, I was probably part of that, bringing in the workplace, because I'd actually organised an event in 2000, and it was, Sienna was going to come and talk about Neurodiversity Celebration Week. The corporate world didn't know about it at this point, and I had an event organised at MediaCom in London, and I had about 20 speakers coming, and it was all organised. And then lockdown happened, and we did it online. And Amanda Kirby helped with her webinar software, and we put it online. And that was the kind of the first Neurodiversity Celebration Week, which was with corporates as well, and people that were older than people in schools. And after that, I think then she decided that that's what she wanted to do.
Yeah,
what I mean.
Right. Yeah. So there's still a school section on the Neurodiversity Week website, and there's a neurodiversity at work section as well. And some of the resources there I gave to her. But the thing is that we need neurodiversity acceptance and inclusion throughout society. It isn't just a workplace thing. It isn't just a school thing. It proliferates every area of society, from the media to being consumers and in the criminal justice system and everywhere. So we really need advocates in all of those spheres of life, and something joining it all together. And I think this has the potential to do that. So thank you very much, Lucy. You can hang around and see the other talks and join the conversation at the end, but I don't mind if you need to leave. It's whatever's best for you.
Okay, no worries.
So shall I come to you next, Sam? Is your next on my screen? Is that okay?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for the invite, Charlie. I really appreciate it, and getting involved this week.
Let me just, there you go. Yeah, you're welcome.
So if I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at my flashcards a little bit. My sensory processing means that I need reminders. So it really helps me to have some notes written down on flashcards.
That's what I do as well. Don't worry. Yeah.
Just being fully transparent.
Yeah.
Neurodiversity. What I wanted to talk about is my childhood difficulties and how I've taken that forward, strategies that I used unknowingly, and how I've kind of taken my adult diagnosis and really reflected and looked back on aspects of my childhood and some of the struggles I had. So the area that I wanted to talk about today is around my sensory processing difficulties that I had as a child and still do. And that I now understand I am hyposensitive, and that I seek out strong and intense sensations. As a child, I was told off a lot for fidgeting, not standing still, dancing on the spot, dancing around, making a show of myself, just generally being unable to stand still. So I could be in a supermarket queue and I'd be moving around and just really irritating my parents. What I didn't know as a child was that moving helped me to regulate my sensory input. So as a child, I did dance classes. I went on to do GCSE dance at school, and I danced post-18, not professionally. That was always a dream, but didn't happen. But danced post-18 in like various dance classes. And despite not being able to receive verbal instructions, I could learn choreography. I could follow choreography. So I learned that having that tutor, having that dance tutor, a teacher in front of me, showing me and telling me, and also the repetition of learning choreography and the muscle memory of learning choreography, I was able to do it. So it was an area of my life that I thought I was good at something, when there were so many other areas of my life, mainly academic, that I felt and thought and was being told at times that I was failing at. So being immersed in music and movement really enabled me to block out other stimuli. And as an adult, I was really into raving and clubbing. And this felt like a really natural fit. I really enjoyed dance music, garage music, jungle music, speed garage, you know, everything, rave music. And it just felt like I'd found my space. I'd found an environment where I was getting the stimuli that I needed, and I could be really immersed in that. Dancing definitely improved my awareness of my body in relation to the space around me. However, this is still a work in progress, because if you go on a walk with me side by side, there is a good chance I will bump into you. Now in my late 40s, I have a job that is quite stationary most of the time. I'm sat down, and so I have returned to dance classes. And this has really helped me to receive that sensory input in a way that I can manage, but it has also improved my sleep, my focus, my confidence as well, and given me that movement stimulation that my body really needs and my mind really needs. So as an adult with a late diagnosis, I've looked back on my childhood and the things that I have or had back then put in place to support my ADHD unknowingly, and movement, looking back, formed a really big part of that without even realizing. So my point of speaking today is to really address the audience and just to say, if you were to look back on your childhood, if you were to look back on the things that you did or didn't do, what were the things that unknowingly supported you with your neurodiversity? And what might be a helpful strategy now?
Fantastic. Thanks, Sam. Yeah, I'm the same. I have to keep moving. So particularly when I'm stressed, the first thing that I want to do is go for a walk or a run. But yeah, it's great to hear that. I really strongly relate to what you're saying. So we'll come to Valeria next. You ready? Okay. Let me just see if I can successfully spotlight you. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's okay. So personally, as I said, I've been diagnosed in 2022, and you may wonder why in 2022. So it's a bit of a strange story, because it seems that for some reasons, because I've never been particularly good at masking, it's like ordinary people diagnosed me before the actual doctors. So in that year, since I had a colleague who was openly ADHD, and I noticed that we had a lot of things in common, I said, okay, I have nothing to lose, and so I will try to see if what people say is true. And back then I got both the diagnosis. So I came as a ADHD first, because it's my dominant trait. Also in the way I learn, in the way I process things, because I've always need to move. I have a very poor focus at learning things. It's like my brain is like a strainer. No, if it's not something which I'm really interested in, I just 5 minutes later I forget. Lot of people told me, you don't keep eye contact, blah, blah, blah. But aside of all of this stuff, which went confirmed by both the diagnosis, I want also to highlight the reason why I'm advocating so hard for neurodivergent people who wants to thrive in corporate. Because once I disclosed my diagnosis back then, I could notice how much misinformation, misinterpretation was still about this, even if we were in 2022, so we were all supposed to know. So back then, since I was completely fresh, I asked to occupational report to make a list on possible adjustment which may have needed, but actually those were minimal because were already part of my role. So my was written like having more time to finish the tasks, having a quiet place to step back, blah blah blah. And this is not, it's okay because that was already part of my job. But when my manager read this, my manager of the time read those, it completely misinterpreted every single thing. So more time to complete the task, what does it mean? Since I really like to empower people, I really like to teach, I really like to see people growing, having more time for me meant I'm supported if you teach me to delegate better. No, he said, interpreted saying, no, let's put you only on back office because it's less time critical. Let's take you away from all the customer facing projects, blah, 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 without even talking to me, without even letting me appeal, without even actually asking what I need for support. And because of this, I left. I left because these were only things which went on my managers and my HR's impressions back then without actually talking to me. So I found this not empowering at all and not respectful at all because I had literally no space. They decided take away, let's remove you from all customer facing things and that's it. But this didn't help me. So this is a clear thing on showing how much we still have to learn and we still have to learn how to engage with the neurodivergent people because we need a dialogue, we need more communication. We don't need to be adjustments are not something which need to be assumed, and sometimes it's not even something are something which we can even find by ourselves. So that was an episode in which I expected to have support and instead it was all the contrary. So since then, I never stopped advocating for people in such situation because I think it's a situation that no one deserves. And we need to be empowered. We need to get talked to because we are all good to say, okay, we are out of the box thinkers, we are this, we are that, but then the reality is different. So I was literally, how can I say, appalled about this because I said, okay, we are in 2022, the report is clear. I already have everything that I need. Was the point to remove me from everywhere? And so since then, I never stopped. And I also never stopped to say that we need like a collective action to let people know that assuming things about us is one of the worst things that you can do to a neurodivergent person. So
Absolutely.
this was the like the, how can I say, like the trigger to all my advocacy since 3 years now, because I started just in late 22 to advocate when I left that company and I joined my current one. And also most of the teams of the way that I, of the times that I have opportunities to speak are about this.
Fantastic. Thanks for that work. It's absolutely what we need to empower neurodivergent people in the workplace and to realise that it's a two-way thing. It isn't like somebody has a diagnostic label and then their manager or their HR could identify everything they need.
Yeah.
It's so individual.
Exactly. And that's because we are not all the same.
Yeah.
And because my thing is that my dominant trait is the ADHD, but the externally presenting one is the autistic part. And there are still a lot of prejudices thinking that autistic people are hermits, they don't like social contact. It's not true, because I thrive when I can be with people, and removing me from customer facing because of a prejudice actually traumatized me. I've been in therapy for 2 years because of this.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. Yeah. You just get everyone back. Yeah, totally relatable. And thank you for doing the great neurodiversity advocacy work that you're doing. Rena, can I come to you now?
Yeah, it's so nice to hear everyone's stories and how I resonate so much with so many of them. So I just want to begin off with my experience as someone who's hard of hearing. I only found out I was dyslexic at university, which I felt I was actually quite too late. I struggled massively with a lot of things, like reading, writing, the basic things, but also interacting with other people, so my social experience. And like Sam mentioned, actually, I was very much someone who used movement as a way to express myself and was my outlet. I think that also followed through all the way to my adulthood. Actually, all the way till now, I'm swinging because I can't actually stay sitting for too long. I'm just going to put my... Okay, there we go. How do I get to see everybody here? Just really quickly.
I spotlighted you, but I can change it back. Is that too much like that? Yeah, I can spotlight you like... Where are you?
I can't see anyone.
Yeah. You can't see anyone?
I can see everyone, but I'm like speaking to myself. That's anything that's up on my screen. That's my end and what I need to do on this end.
Oh, yeah. Can you see underneath there's like different views? There's different views underneath the main picture. I don't know, you might not be able to see it from your end.
That's all right. No worries. You can put spotlight if it's fine. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so sorry, going back to that. I'm also using cards as well, so don't forget. So through that, I use a very multisensorial way of expressing my emotions, because internally I felt like I was really masking as a kid and didn't really have much of a voice. So I used my creativity a lot and my artistry, which kind of developed over time. So in the work that I do today, with being a somatic coach and mentor and an artist, I use mark making and voice work, movement, drumming, and helping people connect with their mind and bodies. So I really feel like we've kind of become disembodied in that. And I think, as for anyone, actually, that's become the norm, to be either too much in the head. So at the moment I run workshops and facilitate other events under my project called Unmask Your Creative Self-Expression. And that's I've been running that for different events like Rise for Disability. And that's been my main place. I've been running that facility, as well as a new project which I'm running now called Neuro Inclusion. So it's all about bringing people together and having a voice and being able to express through imagery, through words, on what does neuro inclusion mean to them. So I'm really focusing on the sensorial side of things, like what does it look like, what does it feel like, what does it taste like, all those things that come to mind. And through a kind of format, they get to upload images on a form that gets sent to me. And this is where my artistry comes into it. So I hand paint my sort of scarves. And so what I want to do eventually is actually put all these pieces together of ideas and words and imagery on a nice long piece of silk, which will be then showcased at the Milton Keynes exhibition on Accessibility Marketplace, which I'm really looking forward to for this June. But my main thing today is all about unmasking yourself, unmasking your authenticity, because I feel like in today's world that gets really suppressed
Yeah.
massively. And I'm sure a lot of people would resonate. We work in a very unconventional way. The 9 to 5 doesn't work with me. You know, I have to take regular breaks. I have a table that goes up and down, and so I can stand and attend meetings or do my emails. And every 20 minutes, I'll need to put on a piece of music to then dance and get it all out, and then come back to the computer, because that's just the way I am. That's just the way I'm wired, and that's fine. So for me, it's all about empowering, enriching, and embracing who you are, all your uniqueness, and celebrating all of that. So I'm all for celebrating neurodiversity, 100%.
Fantastic. Yeah, totally with you there. I'm jiggling about now, but sometimes I'll get up and sing and play my guitar or go out for a walk, and it's really good to be able to get away from that kind of neuronormative convention that you're sitting at a computer from 9 till 5 with maybe a lunch hour, and kind of go with the ebb and flow of your mind. If you're like engrossed in a piece of work and in a flow state, you can carry on doing it. And if you need a movement break, you can. And then if we can work in a way where we're working with our body minds rather than against it, then we can achieve such wonderful things.
Absolutely.
So thanks,
Renna.
Yeah. VJ, over to you. And thank you so much for stepping in at short notice as well. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Charlie. I can't thank Charlie enough for, all your support, honestly, giving me this exposure and promote what I'm doing. It's great to be here. My sort of perspective on it is I do art wellbeing workshops. So art's my whole thing, character design specifically. What I realize is there's a relatability to characterization, whether it's film, actors, characters, in games, art, whatever it is, there's a relatability to characterization. So since I was a child, play was my first language. I was playing with the old saucepans of my family, aunts, uncles, and in the garden, in the greenhouse. As I got a bit older, art became my everything, really, my language, my freedom, my therapy, everything. And this from a very young age. So I became the boy drawing in the corner in the classroom. I was what they'd call, oh, he's weird, he's different, commas. And I became sort of the technical expert in terms of art that my peers would come to solve the creative problems. As I grew older, I saw, through work, I was actually a support worker for autistic adults growing up. That was one of my jobs. I noticed that the problem of expression is a wider problem than I, realized. The population now, I mean, don't quote me on this, I think it's 20%, 15 to 20% neurodiverse in the UK and rising. So I've now come to the realization there's millions of people out here who are neurodiverse like myself. I am ADHD, I have CPTSD, hypermobility, a long scroll, a rap sheet of different ailments, disabilities, whatever label you want to put on it. I'm not really someone about labels, but I'm using labels to communicate, because imagery, I can really relate to what everyone else said here. For me, it was visuals, imagery. That was my language. So I'm doing something that's not quite normal right now. For me, normal in commas. Words isn't really my sort of default, it's imagery. So what I'm helping, and it's now thousands of participants through the different workshops that I've done all around London, Windsor, and thousands of participants have helped to provide a safe space for them to feel free to build their confidence, to just express themselves using character design. So anthropomorphic characters, some of them which you can see behind me here. I'm blocking the view a little bit, but so that's what I've been doing, is helping people, because I don't want people to struggle how I've struggled. Now, my journey in terms of diagnosis, the reason I came to it was because of overwhelm, emotional dysregulation, sensory overload. Now, I've had to go private for quite a lot of things. Back in 2020, I got privately diagnosed with ADHD through Professor Iqbal Mohiuddin, who's an amazing psychiatrist. I would recommend him. And I scored quite highly on, you know, the questionnaire. I gave my school reports. The school reports are very indicative of my obvious ADHD. And since then, I then took that to the GP, and I waited 2.5 years. Thankfully, through Right to Choose, within 6 months, I was diagnosed with autism. And Problem Shared, who I'd recommend, they've done a brilliant job. They were just so efficient and amazing. You know,
I recommend Problem Shared for adult autism diagnosis in England as well. They've got the shortest waiting list of any of the NHS Right to Choose providers, and they're really good at what they do.
Yeah, because some people are waiting years, you know, 7 years more, you know, some, I think diagnosis programs or support programs have been cut recently. So yeah, it was a very quick turnaround on the last 6 months of it, minus the 2.5 years. And they also gave psychoeducation classes afterwards, and they were really useful. Got to connect with others that are also on the spectrum, same sort of journey. But post-diagnosis, there isn't much support publicly, you know, on the conventional sort of medical system. And I've also, so I come from like an intersectional lens because I'm British Indian. In my culture, there's loads of beautiful things, but in terms of trying to help my family understand my diagnosis, it's quite challenging. There's cultural stigmas and you know, problems with communicating. There's no words really. This is what it goes back to, is the language. There's no words for things such as alexithymia. Yes. In Gujarati is the language I speak. So I found useful videos by Dr. Nisha Karia on YouTube that talked about autism in Gujarati, which was really, really helpful to share, because I get a lot of people coming up to me asking about, you know, autism and the sort of overlaps, you know, because I am hypermobile, I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and all these things. And there is a sort of interconnectedness. If you go onto the EDS Society, it's got a zebra over the logo's a zebra. Yeah. It shows you, you know, scientific evidence of how all these different things connect. So
there's a really strong correlation between autism and EDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Yeah.
And this is where I can relate. Every day, I signpost myself. I have a management strategy. I see professionals and movement. There's an organization also called Movement Works, which are doing brilliant work, you know, and there is a somatic sort of thing, that moving the body and sort of process, because they say with trauma, it's stored in the body. The body keeps score. I think that's the book. I still need to read that book, but you know, so movement is very important, I think. But in terms of language, David Gray Hammond, he's been sort of mentoring me, and he's given me the words, you know, as I said, like alexithymia, which means not knowing the words for certain emotions or struggling to express yourself, you know.
David Gray Hammond is a member of the Speakers Collective as well, by the way, but he couldn't join the live stream today. He wasn't available. But yeah, I strongly recommend all of his books, and he's a brilliant advocate to follow on the social media as well.
He's amazing, honestly. He's just what he's doing. The term that he recently helped me learn was called monotropic split.
Yes. Yeah.
Monotropic split. Monotropism, mono means one, poly means many. So polytropism is being able to do many tasks at the same time. Monotropic split means basically I struggle to divide my attention onto various different tasks. So just that, the two words there really help me, being someone who's not, where language isn't my default, as I said earlier. That has helped me so much. Genius Within as well, they've helped me see my spiky profile in terms of they have a thing called My Genius Finder, and filling that out, I realized my spiky profile, because each neurodiverse person is different to another neurodiverse person. When you meet one neurodiverse person, you meet one neurodiverse person, as they say. So that has so I've just basically been accessing what I can to and a lot of it is private. A lot of his people I've met through going to different events, and they've helped me so much. Charlie, you've helped me so much. Everyone's helped me so much, and I do. What I realize is I've been struggling. Sorry if I'm talking too long.
No, no, carry on. Yeah, it's okay.
I hope this is all helpful for everyone. In terms of masking, I think someone else just said it, that their autism was sort of masking the ADHD. For me, my ADHD symptoms were more prevalent. And someone told me at a recycling fair that, did you know that your ADHD can mask your autism and your autism can mask your ADHD? And that's actually what my occupational therapist on the assessment said, that my ADHD is masking my autism. So that was, it's not common knowledge. I don't know if you've heard about this, Charlie, or another.
Yeah, I'll add a bit to this as well. So
yeah,
what I've noticed, because I'm ADHD as well, so I believe that my predominant neurotype is autistic, but I'm ADHD as well. But I wasn't diagnosed with either until my 40s. And I think that is because you take the autism characteristics and presentation and then add another neurotype, such as ADHD. And that means that you end up with a presentation which isn't textbook. So you can end up struggling to get diagnosed. It was quite difficult for me to get diagnosed with ADHD, even though I know full well from my internal experience that I have it. But because my autistic side is very good at planning and preparation, and it's very organized, likes a lot of control, that does mean that some of the issues that you can have with executive functioning and planning and with getting things started with ADHD, they are very much masked by my autism, which is in charge until something happens, like I'm distressed or I'm running late or I've had too much to drink, and then the ADHD takes over. So what you end up with is I've got a blended neurotype, and it's quite specific to me, and it doesn't look like anything that you would read about in the textbooks when you're looking at the criteria for diagnosing autism or ADHD. I am autistic and I have ADHD, and it's just me. It's blended together in my brain. So I think that's really common. People say that girls and those assigned female at birth don't get diagnosed because they mask. But you look at my school reports, I really wasn't masking that hard. I've never been normal passing in my life. I've always been weird and different and thought differently. But I just don't fit the typical presentation that's in the textbook.
Can I just add something on that, Charlie, as well?
Yeah, sure.
Linking what Lucy was saying earlier about reminding us all around the kind of origins of this week and school. And I think as well, for me, I was a good pupil. I wasn't behaviourally an issue. And so I think as also there's discrimination around when somebody presents as in they're not an issue in a school setting, they're behaving, they're conforming. Doesn't mean there's not neurodivergence and neurodiversity, because I was a good pupil, but I was massively struggling and, was disserviced as well in my education, certainly my secondary school education, in that my needs were not recognised.
Yeah, me too. It was only when I got to university that I really fell off the rails and really floundered. So my entire late teens and all the way through my 20s were pretty disastrous. And it's only the fact that I landed quite by chance in a HR analytical role that suited my brain, that I've got to a fairly decent position in my career. But my whole 20s I was really floundering, and that can be really bad for your self-esteem as well. So it can make you more prone to co-occurring mental health conditions. So it's really difficult. And when we do find out that we are neurodivergent, quite often we can go through a period of feeling let down and how different could things have been if only I had this lens to look at things through, if I'd had this key to self-compassion, this key to advocating for my needs and identifying my needs and being taken seriously. how different could it have been?
And can I add something, which is actually a question related to question for all the other ADHDs to know if this happened to them as well. So I had the feeling that sometimes autism, when you said about the, we were saying that autism masks ADHD. In my case, it happens like a compensation, because due to the ADHD, I have, if I was my full ADHD self, my executive function would be extremely poor. However, from the outside, people think that I'm very focused, that I'm very conscientious, that I'm very methodic, and I'm actually the opposite. And I think this is actually what the autistic traits do to overcompensate the ADHD ones. You are so much ADHD that you become the opposite. Does it happen to any of you as well?
This is exactly my experience. So if you look at my electronic filing and my emails, for instance, I've got a cast iron grip on control. Everything, the only things in my inbox are things that I still need to action, and everything sent is filed, and it's really, really orderly. So you might not know I've got ADHD, but if you take a peek into my brain and there's 20 tabs open and one of them's frozen and you don't know where the music's coming from, you might have more of an inkling. So one of my frustrations with the process of the medicalized process of identifying and diagnosing a neurodevelopmental condition is that they're often, when it comes to kids, they're often looking at how much of a pain in the ass that kid is at school, how disruptive they are in class, and how disobedient they are to their teachers, how they won't sit still and things like that. They never seem to really delve into the internal feelings and what's going on in that person's head. And I think that's really damaging, because when you've got bright kids like my daughters, for instance, I know how busy their heads are, but to get diagnosed with ADHD, they're asking the parent and the teacher generally to fill in a questionnaire about how they present externally. And that's a real disservice.
Charlie, am I right in saying that, or understanding that with ADHD, it shows quite differently in females than it does in males? Is that right?
It can do, yeah. I mean, I'm gender non-conforming and both of my kids are non-binary. So it's kind of difficult for me to comment. But
yeah, sure.
I think that the stereotypical view of ADHD tends to be around disruptive little boys that won't sit still, and that girls and those assigned female at birth are less likely to be disruptive because they tend to more often not want to draw attention to themselves by misbehaving. They're more likely to try and blend into the background. So the perception is that more girls present like an attentive ADHD and more boys like hyperactive impulsive ADHD.
But I think also, just to sound that, Charlie, that when girls do present as angry, volatile, aggressive, it's not even considered that could be neurodivergence.
No.
Yeah, I was called, in fact, because of those reasons, because I was extremely disruptive during my elementary school. My teachers thought that I was just crazy, but instead it was my ADHD. Because strangely, so I say I identify as a non-binary as well, but the way I behaved as a ADHD child was closer to what is considered a boy's profile rather than girl's profile.
Can I add to that? Because I'm currently going through an ADHD assessment at the moment, and I'm really making connections with how I was as a child. Because for me, in primary school, it did come out quite aggressive. I couldn't voice what I was saying. It came out very literal, so I'd offend my peers, and I would kind of fight my way physically. Things came out physically because I couldn't express myself any other way, but also because I'm dyslexic. And also I didn't know back then, but also I was hard of hearing. A lot of things got put onto my hearing, because that also played a part to behaviour as well.
So I think, I mean, at times in my life where I've had to mask furiously. So, for instance, I've been working on a project. So I've had to go to a lot of project team meetings and watch my meeting behaviours and do all the right professional facade. And so when that pushes past my ability to cope with it, I get pretty volatile and my mood can be volcanic. And that's me as a professional adult. So translate that to someone that's finding their way in the world, someone that hasn't had decades of experience of trying to control their emotions. And I can completely see that.
I just wanted to add something in there. I think in terms of neuro affirmative language, I think it's more beneficial. I think that in terms of sort of different perspectives on autistic identity with diagnosis, and specifically how the difference between genders and how neurodiversity is shown, like I think it's due to the DSM for I think it's DSM-5.
The Diagnostic Statistical Manual.
Manual. It's based on little boys, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're an adult as a man like myself trying to get diagnosed, not helpful. If you're female, it's not helpful, you know. So maybe there needs to be an update on the DSM. I think Samantha Hugh of ADHD Girls, she's doing some really brilliant work as well on this topic, I think. So hopefully that's helpful to you.
I'm not a fan of the DSM-5 diagnostic criteria for autism because it takes things like how direct I am with my communication and makes that into a deficit or an impairment. It takes the highly focused special interests and monotropism that gives us expertise and turns that into obsessive pathological behaviour. So totally with you on the neuroaffirming language, but the sad thing is currently we need to defer to the medical model to get diagnosis, to request reasonable adjustments and identify as disabled, to get an access to work grant, to get any kind of support. So
Charlie,
I feel we have to switch between the two quite often.
Sorry to interrupt, Charlie. I was just going to add, I'm doing the ADHD thing. I've got to say what I've got to say. But I was going to talk about the social medical model for sure. Like I really believe, and this is what I show with the workshops that I do, is that everyone has innate value. Like you are just perfect exactly how you are, you know, like in the sense of being accepted, you know. And I think with the medical model, with the way society is, it's like, if you're different, you're just not accepted, you know, and that's why all the bullying, the trauma and everything comes in, you know. And I'd say specifically from an intersectional lens, when there isn't the language as well.
Vulnerabilities as well. It's like I've got a sign over my head saying I'm different and I'm vulnerable, so kick me or tease me about how I'm coming across or something. I'm just going to highlight a comment from the chat. I've just put my reading glasses on. Ray, I was one of the boys who was not disruptive and did well in school, so ADHD was pretty much missed. Yeah, I can completely see that happening as well. So, there needs to be a way of identifying our neurotypes which isn't relying so much on such a rigid categorization. And to me, I think there needs to be an acknowledgement that these neurotypes, neurodevelopmental conditions, they co-occur with others more often than was considered when those criteria were put into place. So it's got to have a far more nuanced and holistic approach. Anyone got any final comments, or shall I wrap this up?
I think my only takeaway was I just wanted to share one of my favourite pieces of music.
Yeah,
I actually listened to it this morning in preparation for today, and that is Insomnia by Faithless.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
It's an absolute banger, and it just helps me regulate.
Yeah. If I knew how to play it through the laptop into the stream, I would. But yeah, it talks about creepy noises making your skin creep and can't get no sleep. Yeah, various. Yeah, totally. And it really wants me to move and dance. So I saw Faithless at Glastonbury Festival. I think it was 2002. And they were on just before Coldplay. So that was a bit weird because everyone in the crowd in front of the Diamond stage was jumping up and down to Faithless. And then Coldplay came on and it was such a different vibe. But yeah, thank you for that, Sam. I'll share the lyrics to that and see if other people relate to it. But, it's been fantastic talking to you all. I could talk to you all afternoon, but I've got another one of these later and a corporate neurodiversity talk in between. But it's been fantastic. I'll just say a couple of words about the Speakers Collective. So the Speakers Collective, it's an organisation, it's a charity, I believe, or community interest company. There's about 170 of us, and we all talk from lived experience, and we all promote understanding and acceptance and smash the stereotypes and the stigma for things like disability, neurodivergence, long-term health conditions, all kinds of things. So please do follow us on the socials. It's a really great organisation, and it's brilliant to get the chance to spotlight a few of our neurodivergent members today for Neurodiversity Celebration Week. Okay. So thank you all, and I'll close the live stream now. Thanks.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.